The vastness of space stretched endlessly beyond the viewport of the USS Defiant, a warship docked quietly at the edge of the United Earth Fleet's territory, its hull battered and worn like a forgotten relic. Despite its proud name, the ship was laughed at across the fleet, a mismatch of old designs, patched-up weapons, and technology considered out of date by modern standards. Many officers whispered behind closed doors that the Defiant was good for nothing but taking up space in the hangar, a burden to the fleet's efficiency and prestige. Its crew, a small group of overlooked veterans and eager but inexperienced recruits, knew they were the leftovers, the forgotten few sent to guard a sector that no one cared about. A sector so dull it was almost a ghost town in the galactic charts. Captain Mara Talon stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the calm blackness outside, but inside her mind churned with unease. She could feel the weight of the fleet's contempt, the doubts cast upon her and her ship. The official orders were clear: patrol, monitor, report anything unusual, but never expect real danger here. Yet, something about this quiet outpost felt wrong. The silence was too complete, too unnatural, as if the universe was holding its breath. The crew moved about their tasks with practiced efficiency, yet beneath the routine, a sense of waiting hung heavy in the air, an invisible tension that tightened with every passing hour. Then, the sensors picked up faint blips, strange, irregular signals that shouldn't have been there in this backwater corner of space. The technicians exchanged worried glances, reporting the anomalies up the chain, but the response was dismissive. Probably just cosmic interference, the higher-ups said, unwilling to disrupt their comfortable assumptions. But Captain Talon wasn't convinced. As night fell on the distant stars, the Defiant's radar flickered with growing energy signatures, and a sudden alert sent the crew scrambling to their stations. The calm facade shattered in an instant. Outside the ship, shadows moved, silent, fast, and deadly, an alien fleet cloaked in technology far beyond anything Earth had encountered. The first strike hit the outpost's defense satellites, exploding into fireballs that lit up the void. Panic rippled through the communications channels as the news reached Earth, and Fleet Command realized their mistake. They had underestimated the threat, dismissed the warnings, and now the colony's fate hung by a thread. Reinforcements were too far, and in the chaos, the Defiant became the sole line of defense. On the bridge, Captain Talon's voice cut through the noise, steady and commanding despite the storm brewing outside. "Prepare for battle. We're not going down without a fight." The crew responded with fierce determination, knowing their ship was the last hope against an enemy that saw them as nothing more than obstacles. As the alien ships closed in, the Defiant's engines roared to life, old and worn but filled with human spirit. The warship that everyone had called useless was about to prove that sometimes the greatest power lies in the will to survive, the courage to fight when no one believes in you. The battle was about to begin, and with it, the fate of humanity would be rewritten forever. The USS Defiant drifted in the darkness of space, its sensors scanning the empty void for any sign of life or danger. But the unease that had settled on the crew only grew stronger. Captain Mara Talon stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the star-speckled horizon, sensing something lurking beyond their sight. The strange energy readings they had detected earlier were not random glitches, but a warning, something unseen, something waiting. The crew worked quietly, tension thick in the air as technicians double-checked every system, their fingers trembling ever so slightly over the controls. Then, without warning, The silence was shattered by a sudden alert. A distant burst of energy flared across the sensor grid. The Defiant's tactical officer quickly analyzed the readings and confirmed what no one wanted to hear. A fleet was approaching, cloaked and moving with a stealth beyond anything Earth's scientists had imagined. The alien ships stayed hidden behind advanced technology that scrambled every attempt to get a clear picture, but their presence was undeniable, an invisible shadow creeping closer with every passing moment. The outpost, the Defiant, had been assigned to protect suddenly became a target, and the crew's quiet dread turned into urgent action. The communications channel crackled with static and fear as messages from nearby defense stations stopped abruptly, cut off mid-transmission, confirming the worst. The aliens struck fast and hard, disabling satellites and defense turrets in a silent, deadly wave. Panic reached the Earth Fleet's command center as news of the destruction arrived in fragments. The reinforcements were hours away, too late to save the colony. The Defiant was all that remained, the last sentinel standing between the invading force and the heart of human space. Captain Talon's voice rose above the chaos, firm and clear, demanding every crew member ready for battle. The old ship's engines hummed to life, and the battered hull shuddered under the weight of renewed purpose. The aliens launched their attack, and the Defiant found itself dodging blasts of energy designed to penetrate the thickest armor, a deadly game of cat and mouse played in the infinite darkness. The crew's nerves were tested with every close call, but their determination did not waver. Using the Defiant's unique layout and quirks, once mocked as flaws, they managed to evade strikes that would have destroyed a newer, flashier warship. In the midst of the chaos, the ship's engineer discovered a hidden cache of old weapon systems stored away and forgotten, relics from past wars that could be brought back to life with some work. The crew worked feverishly to repair and rearm the ship, their hope rising with every repaired cannon and reactivated system. Outside, the alien fleet tightened its grip, but the Defiant's crew began to see their enemy not as an unstoppable force, but as a challenge, a test of human spirit and ingenuity. As the stars shimmered cold and distant, the warship that had been called useless prepared to fight for its place in the galaxy, ready to turn the silent threat into a battle that would echo across the universe. The USS Defiant hovered silently in the cold expanse of space, battered but alive, its hull scarred by the recent alien attacks. The crew, once doubtful and weary, now buzzed with a restless energy, fueled by a growing sense of purpose and defiance. Captain Mara Talon stood on the bridge, watching her officers work with determined focus. The ship was old, its design considered outdated by many, but its uniqueness was now proving a secret strength. The mismatched weapon systems and older engines, long dismissed as flaws, were being re-examined with fresh eyes. Chief Engineer Lorne Baker had spent sleepless hours, rummaging through storage bays and maintenance logs, uncovering forgotten weapons and ancient technologies buried beneath decades of upgrades and replacements. The Defiant's pulse cannons were relics from a war fought long ago, but with some adjustments, they could be made powerful once more. Using old blueprints combined with new ingenuity, Lorne and his team rewired plasma conduits and recalibrated targeting systems, bringing the weapons back online. At the same time, the tactical officer, Ensign Mira Chen, studied the alien fleet's attack patterns carefully. Their stealth technology was advanced but not flawless. By tracking faint energy emissions and subtle disruptions in the ship's own sensor fields, Mira devised a new way to predict enemy movements, a trick born from patience and a deep understanding of the Defiant's capabilities. Slowly, The crew tested these ideas in small skirmishes. The first engagements were tense and dangerous. The Defiant was outgunned and outnumbered, but it moved with surprising agility. Captain Talon ordered daring maneuvers that leveraged the ship's unusual design, tight turns through asteroid fields, and sudden bursts of speed using backup thrusters. The alien fleet was thrown off balance, unable to anticipate the erratic patterns of this useless warship. During one intense firefight, the Defiant's old plasma cannons, reignited after years of silence, unleashed a searing barrage that struck an enemy cruiser's weak spot. The alien ship exploded into shards of burning metal, sending a shockwave through their formation. Cheers and relief rippled through the crew, their confidence soaring. But the victory was short-lived. The aliens responded with a sudden, overwhelming strike, forcing the Defiant into evasive maneuvers that pushed its aging systems to their limits. Power fluctuations caused sparks to fly from the ship's core, and alarms blared across the decks. The crew worked frantically to keep the ship operational, repairing damage even as new threats closed in. Amidst the chaos, Captain Talon addressed her crew, her voice steady and strong. "We are the Defiant. We may be old, but we are not defeated. Remember, the enemy fears what they do not understand. Let's show them what humanity is made of." Inspired, the crew dug deep, their bond strengthening with every challenge. They innovated on the fly, hacking alien drones with adapted software, setting traps using decoys fashioned from the ship's own scrap parts, and even using the ship's unusual shape to mask their position during critical moments. As days turned into nights, with no rest, a strange thing happened. The Defiant began to rewrite the story of what a warship could be. It became a symbol, not of weakness, but of human resilience and creative spirit. The alien fleet, once confident and cold, grew cautious, unable to crack the enigma that was this ship. On one quiet evening, as the crew gathered briefly in the mess hall, the youngest recruit whispered, "Maybe we're not useless after all." The others nodded in agreement, their eyes shining with a mix of hope and fierce pride. Somewhere, deep in the galaxy, the warship called Useless was proving that old tech combined with new tricks could change the fate of a war and the future of humanity forever. The USS Defiant was battered and scarred, but it held steady, pushing deeper into enemy territory, where the alien fleet had regrouped and prepared for a final devastating strike. Captain Mara Talon knew this mission was their last chance to turn the tide of the war, a desperate, daring attack on the alien command ship that controlled the invading forces. The crew had no illusions about the danger ahead. The command ship was a fortress in the void, shielded by layers of energy and surrounded by dozens of smaller warships ready to defend it. Yet, with no reinforcements coming, the Defiant had to be the spear that broke through the enemy lines. As they approached the alien stronghold, tension filled every corner of the ship. Every creak of the hull, every flicker of the control panels was a reminder of how fragile their hope was. The air was thick with anticipation, but also determination. The crew worked in perfect harmony, their trust in one another growing after weeks of surviving impossible odds. Captain Talon gathered her officers on the bridge and shared a quiet moment of resolve. "This fight is more than survival," she said softly. "It's a statement. We show the galaxy what it means to be human. We fight not because we are perfect, but because we refuse to give up." The plan was risky, use the ship's unique agility and old but adapted technology to slip through enemy defenses, then unleash a concentrated attack to destroy the command ship's core systems before the aliens could respond. The Defiant slipped past the first layers of patrol ships, dodging blasts of energy that lit up the void like deadly fireworks. The ship's old engines groaned under the strain, but the crew pushed harder, each maneuver more daring than the last. Engineers worked non-stop to keep the weapons systems online and the shields holding against constant bombardment. The alien fleet tried to trap them in a tight formation, but the Defiant's captain used every trick they had learned. Sudden reversals, unpredictable patterns, and electronic countermeasures designed from scavenged alien tech. The crew's hearts pounded with every close call, yet their spirits burned brighter with each success. They could feel the enemy's frustration mounting, their silence breaking into sharp bursts of aggression. The warship that was once dismissed as useless was now a ghost in the battlefield, striking fast and fading away before the enemy could respond. Finally, they reached the command ship, a massive structure bristling with weapons and shimmering shields. The moment of truth had arrived. The Defiant unleashed everything it had. Plasma cannons fired, ion blasts exploded against the hull, and modified drones swarmed the enemy's sensors, creating chaos. The crew held their breath as the command ship's shields flickered under the assault. But the battle was far from over. The alien flagship retaliated with a deadly pulse, tearing through the Defiant's outer hull. Alarms screamed, and the ship lurched violently. Crew members scrambled to repair critical systems, while the captain kept the ship steady, guiding it through the storm. In the midst of the chaos, an unexpected discovery gave them hope. The ship's core contained a rare energy source, a hidden power that, if channeled correctly, could amplify their weapons far beyond their usual capacity. It was a gamble, but the crew worked together, rerouting power and preparing to unleash a final, devastating strike. The moment they waited for came a narrow opening in the command ship's defenses. The Defiant fired its newly charged plasma beams directly into the core, and a brilliant explosion rocked the battlefield. The enemy command ship shattered, and with it, the alien fleet's coordination collapsed. Smaller ships fled or were destroyed in the chaos, leaving the Defiant to glide through the wreckage as the last victorious sentinel. Exhausted but victorious, the crew cheered softly, knowing their victory was hard-won and would change the course of human history. Captain Talon looked at her crew with pride, her voice steady as she declared, "We faced the impossible and won. This is just the beginning." The warship that everyone had called useless had become a legend, a shining example of human courage and resilience, proving that sometimes the greatest victories come from the most unlikely places. The USS Defiant drifted through the quiet aftermath of battle, its battered frame a stark contrast to the glowing wreckage scattered across the starry void. The alien fleet, once a relentless force closing in on Earth's borders, lay broken and scattered, its command shattered and its will undone. On the bridge, Captain Mara Talon watched the stars with a mixture of exhaustion and triumph, the weight of the past battles settling on her shoulders, but unable to dim the spark of hope burning within her. The victory was hard-earned, carved out of desperation and grit, but it had come at a cost. Crew members who fought bravely now rested silent, their sacrifice etched into the very steel of the ship. Still, the Defiant remained afloat, a symbol not only of survival, but of humanity's unyielding spirit. Word of their triumph spread quickly, traveling faster than any fleet could fly, carried by transmissions that sparked cheers and disbelief across Earth and its colonies. Fleet Command, once skeptical and dismissive, now hailed the Defiant and its crew as heroes, their story inspiring a renewed sense of pride and unity among humans everywhere. The warship that had been labeled useless was now a beacon, proof that even outdated technology and overlooked people could rise to face the galaxy's darkest threats and emerge victorious. As the Defiant made its way back to Earth, preparations began for its refurbishment and recommissioning. Engineers and scientists pored over its unique systems, eager to learn from the clever adaptations that had saved it. The ship's unusual design, once a source of ridicule, was studied and praised for its unexpected advantages in battle, and plans were made to integrate its technology into future fleet vessels. Meanwhile, Captain Talon and her officers shared their experiences and lessons learned, emphasizing the importance of creativity, courage, and trust over mere firepower and cutting-edge tech. They became ambassadors of a new era in human space defense, reminding everyone that innovation often comes from the edges, from those who refuse to accept limits. On board, the crew found time to grieve and celebrate. Bonds forged in the heat of combat deepened, friendships blossomed, and a quiet sense of family grew within the ship's walls. The youngest recruit, once unsure and timid, now held her head high, inspired by the bravery of those around her. Veterans who had been written off as past their prime discovered new purpose, their experience proving invaluable in moments of crisis. The Defiant's story was told and retold, each retelling adding layers of honor and meaning, transforming the ship into a legend of the fleet. Across colonies and space stations, people spoke of the warship with reverence and pride, its name a rallying cry in times of uncertainty. Yet, even in victory, the challenges ahead were clear. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown threats and mysteries. The aliens defeated might only be the first of many dangers lurking in the darkness. But humanity was ready stronger, smarter, and more united than ever before. And at the heart of this readiness stood the USS Defiant, no longer a forgotten relic, but a shining symbol of what humans could achieve when they refused to give up. As the ship entered Earth's orbit, flanked by a fleet of newer vessels, the cheers from below echoed through the silence of space. Captain Talon allowed herself a rare smile, knowing that this victory was not just theirs, but humanity's proof that in the face of overwhelming odds, even the so-called useless could rise to greatness and change the course of history forever.